they have finally given us a smaller option. Hi guys, Lucy, aka the Watchbox Diaries here. Welcome to the channel. Now, Bell & Ross are either a brand that you immediately recognise or you kind of overlook them a little bit. Known for their square cases, their aviation DNA, and that very much solid industrial design language, they've always played on the larger side in terms of case sizing. Until now. At Watchaes and Wonders this year, they announced something that, in my opinion, their entire collection has been missing. And that is something that is accessible for those of us with smaller wrists. Today, I've managed to get hands-on with both the new 36mm BR05 in ice blue and its larger sibling, the 40mm in blue steel. Both have that unmistakable Bell & Ross aesthetics, but they have very different wrist presences. So if you're wondering how the 36mm wears, how the sizing affects the wear experience, and how it compares to the bigger 40mm, then you're in the right place. Let's get into it. As always, I like to whiz through the specs straight away. So obviously, this is a 36mm watch with a lug-to-lug of just 42.8mm, a thickness of 8.5mm, stainless steel case, integrated bracelet. It utilises the BR329 automatic with 54 hours of power reserve. You're looking at a sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating and 100 meters of water resistance. I've managed to get hands-on with the ice blue, but they have provided another 3 colorways. So you're looking at the gray, the black, and a mother of pearl option too. So what do I like about the new 36mm? Well, quite a lot actually. Now I've seen and continue to see a lot of the Tiffany blue around, but personally I am a much bigger fan of this ice blue colorway that I'm also starting to see a little bit more of within the watch industry. This is such a gorgeous shade in person. It goes from sort of a silver to quite a rich blue depending on the light, which I love a dial that plays with the light. Simple but effective. Now, as an aviation inspired brand, there's an expectation on legibility within the watch, and I am very happy to say this one has not let me down. Those applied indices with the solid lume makes it so easy to read, and not only that, but the lume is very fun to play with too. I think adding a 36mm was a great option. It's such a sweet spot size-wise. I mean, not only does it open the brand up to people with smaller wrists, but it also leans more into that sporty vibe without going too far. I do also want to highlight the finishing on this piece because I think it is really well done. That mix of polishing and brushing provides more dimension and adds to the appearance of angles, which nicely balance out that curved case. So my wrist is around 6.2 inches and this wears like an absolute dream. The proportions with that 42.5mm lug to lug, the case thickness and that integrated bracelet, I think help it to wear flat and really curves around the wrist exceptionally well. So first up on my gripes has to be the lack of micro adjust. For a watch with a sports watch aesthetic, it really needs to have adjustment. So this next one is exactly the same within the 40mm piece, so I guess it's a gripe across both options, and that's the lack of minute track. If you're setting the time, if you're trying to tell the time, unless it is dead over that 5-minute marker, it is not going to be accurate. Absolutely fine for a dressier watch, less so for a sports watch. As someone with thinner fingers, using a crown isn't often an issue for me. However, the crown on this is quite small, and then with the crown guards either side of it, it can be quite fiddly to use. Now, while the movement may not be the most fancy or the most aesthetically pleasing, personally, I like to see the mechanics of a watch. Unfortunately, the 36mm does have a closed case back, unlike the 40mm option. Now, while these do share DNA, they're definitely siblings rather than twins. Starting off with their similarities though, The case design is exactly the same on both of them, very recognizable. The dial layout is the same, and they both have that gorgeous sunburst dial. At a quick glance, you could think that the 36mm is simply a shrunken down version of the 40mm, but that wouldn't quite be true. Moving on to differences, the 36mm doesn't have a date window, whereas the 40mm does. This is a gripe of mine across the wider watch industry because it's something a lot of watch brands sacrifice when they're downsizing. I wonder whether it's a movement price issue. Would a smaller movement with a date function affect the overall price too much? Another sacrifice made, both by Bell & Ross and the wider watch industry, is the lack of open caseback options. The 40mm has a cool star design, whereas the 36mm just has a standard closed caseback. Why? Somebody out there, please tell me why. So what are my final thoughts on the 36mm? Honestly, I think it's such a smart move by Bell & Ross to produce this. By introducing a more compact version of one of their flagship models, they are opening the door for a much broader audience. They've nailed the proportions and the colorways. As I mentioned earlier, it would be great to see a little bit more variety in the future, maybe even a textured dial. As for choosing between the two, if you're looking for something with a strong wrist presence that is a little bit closer to that classic Bell & Ross DNA, has more variety in regards to colorways and material options, has a date function and an open case back, then the 40mm is a great option for you, especially if you are someone with a larger wrist. However, side by side, I do think the 36mm wears like a more refined, modern interpretation of the same idea. It still has the same character with that square case, the industrial details, and the aviation-inspired legibility with the numerals. But I do feel like they've softened the whole experience with this one. It's giving more of an everyday feel. It is all personal preference though, and me, as a solid member of the Itty Bitty Wrist Committee, I would go for the 36mm every time. That is it. That is my Bell & Ross BR05 36mm review / comparison done. Let me know your thoughts on this watch, the color options, future color options, whether you go for the 36 or the 40mm, everything, all of your opinions in the comment section below. Thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, if you want to support me and my channel, there are a couple of things that you can do. I have set up a Buy Me a Coffee if you would like to donate to that. I believe it is in my bio on my channel page. And then you've got to do the YouTubey thing. So make sure you've given this a like, you've commented, you're subscribed to the channel. And if you want to be notified of my upcoming videos, all you've got to do is click the little bell and YouTube will do its thing. Until next time, bye.